right. Hi, guys. Rebecca and I are honored to be here.
She looked him in the eyes and said the words no husband wants to hear. We're done. Not maybe, not I need space, not let's talk later. Done. And for the first time in years, Terry Crews, the man the world saw as strong, funny, successful, larger than life, had no performance left. No joke, no charm, no escape. Just silence. Because this was not happening on a movie set. This was not a scene he could walk away from. This was his wife, his family, his life. And the woman standing in front of him was Rebecca Crews, the same woman who had loved him before the fame, before the red carpets, before Hollywood even knew his name. But to understand how they got to that breaking point, you have to go all the way back. Before the cameras, before the money, before the world called him a star, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Terry Crews was 19 years old, a college football player at Western Michigan University. Young, ambitious, still trying to figure out who he was going to become. One night, a friend invited him to a Wednesday church service. Terry walked in expecting something ordinary, but then he heard the music. Not quiet church music. Something different. Funky, alive, electric. And when he looked toward the sound, he saw her, Rebecca. She was playing the keyboard with confidence, focus, and complete control of the room. And Terry was stunned, because Rebecca was not waiting around for someone to give her a life. She already had one. She was a mother, a student, a musician, a woman with dreams, standards, and discipline. She had been Miss Gary, Indiana. She had plans. She had direction. And then Terry Crews walked up to her in a shirt so tight, it looked like it had survived from middle school, and gave her the smoothest line he had. "I like the way you play that keyboard, sister." Rebecca was not impressed. Not even close. In her mind, it was basically, give me a break. For Terry, it was a complete crash landing, but something about her stayed with him. So when mutual friends kept inviting them to the same group dinners, Terry started paying attention, one dinner, then another, then another. At first, it was casual, but slowly, something real started to form. Rebecca noticed that Terry was different from what she expected. He was big, loud, athletic, but underneath that, there was something gentle, something almost innocent. Their first date was not glamorous, baked beans, barbecue, a tight budget. At one point, plans had to change because money was short. But Rebecca noticed something important. Terry called back. He did not disappear, he did not make excuses, he did not lie. And sometimes, in the beginning of love, that is what matters most. Not perfection, consistency. Later, they finally went out properly. They dressed up. They went to dinner. They danced. The music was slow. The room felt warmer. And for a few minutes, the rest of the world seemed to disappear. Terry kept a respectful distance, almost too respectful. Rebecca had to tell him he could relax. And then something happened she did not expect. She pictured herself walking into a room, introducing Terry to people as her husband. She tried to ignore the thought. Too soon, too much, too impossible. But the picture stayed. So eventually, Rebecca asked him directly, "How do you feel about me?" And Terry answered with complete certainty, "I believe you're supposed to be my wife." On July 29th, 1989, the day before Terry turned 21, they got married. And from the outside, it sounded like the beginning of a beautiful American dream. A young football player, a talented wife, a growing family, a future full of promise. But real life came fast. Terry's football career was unstable. One team, then another, getting picked up, getting cut, moving again, starting over again. Every time Rebecca tried to build a home, life seemed to shift underneath her. New city, new pressure, new disappointment. And when money got tight, they sometimes had to move back in with family. For Rebecca, that was hard. She had always been independent. She had already learned how to stand on her own. So feeling trapped inside someone else's life created tension she could not ignore. And Terry was struggling too. When football did not become what he thought it would be, something inside him cracked. He was all or nothing, high when things looked good, crushed when things fell apart, and the people closest to him felt it. Rebecca saw his anger, his frustration, his immaturity, his fear. Terry would later admit that he had not always been the man he should have been. But Rebecca stayed, not because she was weak, because she believed there was more inside him than the pain he was showing. Then Hollywood happened. The roles came, the attention came, the world started to know his name. Terry Crews became the man people recognized. Funny, powerful, charismatic, unforgettable. From the outside, it looked like everything had finally worked out. A successful career, 5 children, a long marriage, a public image people admired. And that should have been the moment everything got better. But the worst was still coming. Because fame does not fix what a person refuses to face. It only gives them a bigger stage to hide on. And inside their marriage, Rebecca was reaching her limit. 20 years in, she saw the truth clearly. There were patterns Terry had not dealt with, private struggles he had not fully owned, damage that apologies could no longer cover. They had tried counseling, but Terry later admitted something painful. He had not been completely honest. He was performing change, not living it. And here's what makes this story hit so hard. This is not just a celebrity marriage story. This is what happens when love reaches the point where apologies are no longer enough. Rebecca finally sat him down. She told him what she could no longer accept. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more half-truths. And then she said it. We're done. For Rebecca, that moment was painful, but it also came with peace. She realized she could survive without the marriage if staying meant losing herself. She was not begging anymore. She was not negotiating anymore. She was choosing herself. And Terry felt the weight of it. He later described that moment as both the worst and the best day of his life. Worst, because he was losing the woman he loved. Best, because the illusion finally shattered. He could not charm his way out. He could not explain it away. He could not perform growth anymore. He had to actually change. And in that moment, the choice became clear. The career, the ego, the image, the attention, or Rebecca. And for once, Terry did not choose the performance. He chose the work. He went to therapy. Alone. Not because it looked good, not because cameras were watching, not because Rebecca promised she would come back. He went because he finally understood something. Saying sorry is easy. Becoming different is expensive. It costs pride, it costs comfort, it costs the old version of yourself. And this was not a one-week fix. This took months. And Rebecca watched every single one of them. From a distance, she watched his behavior. Not his words, his behavior. She watched the anger soften. She watched the impatience change. She watched him stop defending himself and start facing himself. And slowly, the man she had always believed was inside him began to show up. Not perfectly, but honestly. And that mattered. Rebecca did not come back because she forgot. She did not come back because one apology erased years of pain. She came back because she saw real effort. Consistent effort, the kind of effort that cannot be faked for long. Terry understood that making amends meant more than saying the right words. It meant becoming safe again, trustworthy again, present again. And Rebecca understood something too. Some people destroy their families and walk away. Terry fought for his. That did not make the past disappear, but it made the future possible. Today, Terry and Rebecca Crews do not tell their story like a perfect fairy tale. And that is exactly why it feels real. Because real love is not always pretty. Sometimes it is uncomfortable. Sometimes it is painful. Sometimes it forces two people to face the parts of themselves they would rather hide. Their children grew up. The house got quieter. The world kept moving. Terry kept working. Rebecca kept building her own identity, her own work, her own life. But something between them had changed. Now, when she says she needs him to slow down, he listens. Now, when connection matters, he pays attention. Because he knows what almost happened. He knows there was a moment when she was ready to walk away forever. And he knows she would have survived. That is the part that makes this story powerful. Rebecca did not stay because she had no choice. She stayed because Terry finally gave her a real reason to. More than 3 decades of marriage, 5 children, football instability, Hollywood pressure, a near ending, and one decision to rebuild what was broken. Maybe that is what real love looks like. Not perfect, not painless, not always beautiful, but honest enough to say, this cannot continue, and brave enough to answer, then I will change. So here's my question for you. If you were Rebecca, after everything she went through, would you have stayed or would you have walked away? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I'm reading every single one.